level 2 upgrade. And there it is, guys, Titan's next upgrade, the rear RPM bulkhead. This of course was donated to me by Coyote0976. Thanks again, man. Well guys, let's go ahead and open this up and check it out. I'm just going to go ahead and pull off the top, and yep, I'm going to have to cut this bag open. That's no problem. Got some scissors. Of course, we have the instructions. I'm sure they're identical to the front. And now we have the bulkhead themselves. Guys, these look pretty good. And of course, all the included hardware. We got the screws, as well as the nuts, and RPM stickers. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to do the same thing I did last time. Plug up the exhaust with paper towel so it doesn't drip everywhere, since I'm going to be flipping the RC around a lot, and removing all 4 of the tires by undoing the wheel nuts that hold them on. Now that that's taken care of, I need to go ahead and remove the engine. The engine is blocking some of the screws that I need to remove in order to take off the rear assembly. So to remove the engine, first of all, I'm going to go ahead and unplug the fuel line that goes into the exhaust. Then I'm going to flip it around this side and remove the fuel line that goes to the carburetor. Swing those off to the side. Next up, I need to remove this screw and nut that holds the exhaust to the chassis. With that out of the way, I'm going to flip around the RC, and I need to undo the throttle arm that hooks up to the carburetor. This one right here. I'm just going to go ahead and pry that off. And now I need to remove the 4 screws that hold on the engine to the engine brace. There are 2 on this side, and then 2 on this side. Now that those screws are out of the way, I can easily pull out the engine. However, I have the Easy Start system, so I need to go ahead and undo the Easy Start connection, and it's only held in with these 2 screws. And now I can take out the engine. What I'm going to do is just grab it, tilt it forward towards the spur gear, and then lift back, and it should come right on out. And now I need to go ahead and remove 12 screws. We have these 4 on top, and on bottom we have these 8. Once you remove the screws, you'll see that the rear skid plate is going to come right on off. Set that off to the side, and we have the rear assembly. Next thing we need to do is remove the rear bumper, and it's held on with 4 screws. We have 2 on this side and 2 on this side. Once those screws are taken care of, you can remove the rear bumper and the center brace. Now it's time to go ahead and take off the rear shock tower. It's held in with 4 screws as well. After that, I need to go ahead and remove the A-arms from the bulkheads. They're held in with screw pins or king pins. Screw pins, all you have to do is unscrew them a little bit, pull them out. With the king pins, you're going to have to pop off an E-clip and then slide the pin out. There we go. Now just remember, with the top pins, you are going to have spacers, whether they're the snap-in kinds or just the ring kinds. They're going to go in the front and back. But with that out of the way, the last 2 things I need to remove is the rear toe links, and they're held in with 2 screws. And now we can finally remove the bulkheads. All I have to do is pull this all apart. The drive shafts should slide out from each other, and there's one bulkhead. Where'd the other one go? There we go. And yeah, there's the parts that I'm going to be replacing. Each one is on each side of the diff housing, but yeah, they're in relatively good shape, but you cannot beat RPM. And just like with the front bulkheads, you can see that they're pretty much identical. However, they do implement that little nut that does lock the screw in instead of screwing it into the plastic. It's a stronger design, but it's one heck of a pain to install, at least with one of these. One will be a little bit more difficult than the other. So let's go ahead and yeah, let's get this installed. Now you can see that there's this little knob. What you're going to want to do is match it up with that hole. Slide the drive shaft through, slide that into position, and do the same thing for the other side. Once that's taken care of, you're going to go ahead and slide the drive shafts back into position. Slide them in just like that. And the first thing I'm going to do is reattach the rear shock tower. And remember, it's held in with 4 screws. Once that's taken care of, I can go ahead and reattach the A-arms. Remember, with the top A-arms, you're going to have to put in those spacers. With the bottom ones, they don't have any. And there you have it. The pins and spacers have been inserted, and now it's time to go ahead and reattach the camber links. Now that that's been taken care of, I'm going to go ahead and insert the center spacer as well as reattach the rear bumper. Once that's taken care of, just remember, when you reinsert the 4 screws that hold on the bumper, tighten them all the way down and then loosen them up just a little bit. You want the rear bumper to be able to flex, that way it can absorb impact. Now it's time to go ahead and reattach this to the chassis. However, with the RPM rear bulkhead, you'll notice that there's these little grooves. those little grooves are meant to fit these little 3mm nuts into. So all you have to do is slide those into place. Once that's taken care of, you can go ahead and realign and insert the center drive line. Once you have that taken care of, you're going to hold it together, flip the RC over, and you're going to insert the 4 screws that hold it in. Now remember, RPM gives you screws. They include small, medium, and large screws. If you have the T-Maxx, you're going to be using the small screws to attach the bulkhead back to the chassis. If you have the e-maxx, then you're going to be using the longest screws. Once you take care of those 4 screws, you're going to flip the RC back on over, and it's time to reinstall the rear skid plate. Now for the 4 screws that connect to the chassis braces, those are going to stay the same. However, these 4 that go into the bulkhead are going to be replaced with the medium-sized screws that RPM included. However, you're not just going to be able to slide them in and screw them down. What you're going to have to do is slide in a 3mm nut on top. That's what's going to lock the screw in place. And there you have it. Once those 4 screws are taken care of, you can go ahead and reinstall the engine. Move the throttle arm into this position, and then you're going to insert the 4 screws that hold the engine down. Now you're just going to go ahead and slide it into place, tighten these 4 screws down, and reattach the exhaust back to the chassis. Once that's taken care of, you're going to go ahead and reattach the connector for the easy start. And now it's time to swing it around, and I need to reattach the throttle back to the carburetor. Now you can see the throttle's right there. I'm just going to use a flathead screwdriver and pop it back on. After that, I'm going to get the fuel line that comes from the bottom of the gas tank, and I'm going to reattach it back to the carburetor. Once that's taken care of, I'm going to make sure that the sleeve that protects the fuel line is in place, and then I'm going to get the last fuel line that comes out of the top of the gas tank and reattach that back to the exhaust. Make sure that that protective sleeve is in the right position, and then all I have to do is reattach the tires. And there you have it, guys. I am finally done installing this upgrade. Now it looks identical to the stock one, but you know what? You just can't beat RPM's plastic quality. Thank you again, Coyote, for this awesome upgrade. And that was Titan's Level 2 upgrade.